Okay, we're here at the Slush backstage, and I found a very interesting interviewee. Who are you, and where are you coming from?
My name is Daan Luiningia. I'm founder and CTO of Meatable.
Yeah.
We're located in the Netherlands, and what our company does is making meat using cell cultures, so really using the cells from the animal and growing them to create pieces of tissue where people can actually eat.
And is it meat?
Yes, it is. It's exactly the same thing. So meat, as from a cow, is made from muscle and fat cells.
Okay.
And those are the cells that we actually are growing outside of the animal. So we don't actually need the animal, but we just are growing the parts that we actually will consume.
Okay, that's very interesting. How's this going to change the world?
Well, currently the status quo of having animal husbandry is very damaging to the environment and also to people and also the animals, of course. It's the horrible ways that we're keeping these animals in. And so the numbers are awful. So 15,000 liters of water for 1 kilogram of beef, 25 kilograms of food for 1 kilogram of beef. They have the measurements, and almost 15% of all greenhouse gas emissions that are produced worldwide are coming from animal agriculture. So this is a disaster, right? And the increased demand of animal protein is only going to rise in the coming years, especially when now developing countries are having an increasing, more wealthier middle class. What we see is the adaptation of animal proteins when the GDP rises above a certain amount. Instead of buying a car, they basically are uptaking animal protein in their diet. And while we here in Western Europe, we are more conscious about the meat choices that we make, there are more alternatives present here for us. In the upcoming markets, it's not so obvious, and also people need to be educated on it. And if you're thinking that only China by itself has over 1 billion people, right? What we can do is only so much. So we really have to change the way that we are producing animal proteins. And the way we're doing it is reducing the carbon footprint that this product has by 90 to 95% of water use, land use, antibiotic use, and about 60 to 90% of the energy use. So this way we can hopefully feed the increasing population of planet Earth without all the damaging effect that animal really has on the planet.
How scalable is this? I mean, how fast is it to grow, a steak?
All right. So the entire process, when it's scaled, which is the hard part of the entire process, growing a large amount of cells in a 100,000 liter bioreactor is quite challenging. But eventually, if you're doing the calculations, we should be able to have a batch of cells ready within 3 weeks. And this brings another dimension of convenience. For example, if there would be a nice summer for once in Finland, or for that matter in the Netherlands, then people go out and start to barbecue. It's really popular in the Netherlands. I don't know how it's over here. Right. So then you have to have increased meat consumption. And the problem with that is that you have to think about that 3 years in advance. So you have to impregnate the cow, raise it, slaughter it, and then present a piece of tissue for people to barbecue at. And that's 3 years in the total amount of turnover that takes from calf to actually having something on your plate. Our technology can actually do that within 3 weeks. So you can have a weather forecast, and these are getting better. So if you have a 3-week weather forecast, you can fine-tune the amount of product you're going to develop in the type of the 3 weeks. This way also reducing overproduction and spoilage.
Very interesting. How does this affect large cap companies or business models? Do you think what kind of companies won't survive, or how do you see the world in 10 or 20 years?
Very interesting question. So we actually don't see a business vanishing. The current meat market is so enormous that within the next 100 years, I don't think anybody will be competed out of existence. So what will happen, at least what we're trying to make a reality, is that the mega farms, which are currently necessary to fuel the demand of meat through the world, to shrink those to a more acceptable size, where farmers have more control over how the animals behave and how well they are being taken care of. And then hopefully also then increasing the price of meat to reflect actually the real cost of meat. Because currently it's heavily subsidized and also subsidized by environmental impact. All the resources are all subsidized. So maybe it's time to actually raise that cost a bit to be more reflective of the actual price of meat. And I think there's no farmer that can contradict that. They would actually like to scale down a bit to take more care of the animals. And for all that matters is that organic farms, we're all for organic farms. We think it's a wonderful way to raise animals and use them as a product still. But if you do this in a sustainable way and in a caring manner, we have no problem with that. We are only trying to go after the big bulks where animal has to be treated as a product instead of an animal. Those are the things that we are trying to mitigate. But the problem with that is that organic farming, it's just not sustainable enough to feed the entire planet organically. And that's what we're working on. So producing so much, and then if you go further down the supply chain, or up for that matter, you have the nutrients which the animals are consuming. You can also use the same nutrients to feed the cells. So we just are tapping into that supply chain, using it to our advantage. And even we're just a middleman, right? Eventually, when it has to be distributed, companies like Tyson or Cargill, who does the meat packaging and processing and distribution, we can definitely see a partnership with them, right? We're not going to set up the entire transportation chain. We're just going to ask them if we would be able to partner up and use their infrastructure to dispense our products.
At what stage is Meatable currently? When can I taste such a product?
So we're a very young company. We just closed the round this summer. We raised 3.5 million, and we're now really in the R&D stage. What this 3.5 million will get us to is what we call a demo stage, where we have on a lab scale, small scale volumes, pieces of tissue for mostly testing, but also to prevent to high impact individuals, high impact events for the tasting. And what we're really doing is making a process that is scalable, completely animal free and completely scalable and sustainable. So that's what our real focus is on, not producing the meat to show like, hey, we've done the hamburger, look at us. No, it's really about the process, because one hamburger doesn't solve the problem. You need to have a process that really have a continuous amount of product. And that's 2.5 years away. Next phase is then the pilot plant stage, where we're doing this at a larger scale to make sure that the next step is all the problems for the next steps are being taken care of, having a sustained amount of production, but usually destined for festivals, high-end restaurant, high-end retailers, really as a premium product. And then the next step is really the big flagship plan where that basically can be copy pasted throughout the world, where you have large volumes of meat being produced that people can consume for a reasonable price.
Cool. Just a final question. So we've had a long slush, or long 2 days. What's next? What are you going to do next?
Next, we're going back home and working in the lab. So this was just a side trip for me. I was asked by one of the investors to come to speak here, which I really enjoyed. Slush is an amazing festival, but for now we have to get back to work, right? Because we really want to make sure that we can make this product a reality within the 2.5 years. So this has been nice, but I'm really looking forward to get back into the lab and start working again.
Cool, thanks a lot for the interview.
Thank you so much.
Okay.